to do is to, in turn, stand up, introduce yourselves, and repeat which seat you are running for and why you want to do this particular kind of public service. So, Courtney.
My name is Courtney Giovinazzi.
And you're going to have to speak really loud because this is a...
That was loud.
Okay, pretend you're on the school board at this point and you're trying to make yourself heard across the playground.
Screaming children. Okay, screaming children. I'll try. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Courtney Giovinazzi. I'm running for a position on the school board. I have lived in West Bath for 10 years, and with my husband and my 3 children. And before that, I was in Bath for 7 years. My children attended St. John's Catholic School until my eldest was in 5th grade. And in 5th grade, we decided to homeschool. And I've been homeschooling for 10 years. We use a classical curriculum, which really focused on reading, writing, arithmetic, grammar, geography, and sciences, as well as history, strong history, including civics. And my 2 boys are presently both in college. My daughter is a junior, so I have 2 more years of homeschooling. And that's exciting, and it's a little sad for me. So I also understand special needs. My son had a visual impairment. My daughter has dyslexia, and my nephew has both Down syndrome and autism. So I understand the challenges of special needs and their education. Before I had children, I had a successful decorative painting and arts business, which I ran myself. And I think all of these things and experiences will help benefit the board in a unique way. So that's the background. And as far as why I am running, first, I really clearly believe that kids deserve a fantastic education, a great education. However that happens to be for the families, for the children. And school choice is a great thing that we have in this town. So I believe strongly in that. I also recently, with the tax increases, I began to question, okay, what's going on with the taxes? And it made me wonder how things were going at the school and why there were increases in the taxes. And upon digging a little bit from there, I found that Maine itself was not doing so great as far as a ranking nationally. West Bath always has done and performed above the national or the Maine's rating. And I know that the school itself is beloved throughout the community. It's a lovely little school. But I'm not sure that with the ranking that we have as a state, that we're really doing the best that we can as far as the use of the money and for the children. I know that in 2018, we were ranked 19th in the state, or in the country, and now we're down around 34 or as low as 40. So something's going on there, and I personally don't know what that is, but I'm willing to have a look at what it is and see if maybe something can change there as well. So to end with, I really do feel that the children and the residents deserve the best that they can have with the money that we have. So definitely, money is needed for the schools, it's just how is it working? So that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Good evening. Many of you know me, but my name is Robert Weir, W-E-I-R. Don't put a D on the end, please. I I've lived in West Bath since 2007. I've served on the town investment committee since its inception. And more recently, I was a member of the 6-member committee that developed the up-to-date comprehensive plan for the town of West Bath. Quite an undertaking. We worked on that some 2 years. I grew up in a small town in northwestern Vermont. There were 28 students in my high school graduating class. I've been to 12 grades with 14 of them. I understand small schools, but I also have other educational experiences. I graduated from the University of Maine, Orono, with a Bachelor of Science in Forestry Science. I left Orono and went to North Carolina State University and received a master's degree. And I then was coaxed into going on for a PhD, which I had not intended to do, but they provided financial support and strong encouragement, and I completed that in 6 years because a year into it they hired me on the faculty in a junior faculty position. And 6 years later I completed my PhD, coincidental with the major professor I went to study under announcing his retirement. And lo and behold, a couple months later, I got invited to the dean's office and they asked me to become director of the research and development program that I had gone to study in. And I did that for the next 22 years. I retired from North Carolina State University, and as soon as my wife Jane and I could find the land we wanted to build a house on in West Bath, we moved to West Bath in December of 2007. That's a lot of education. I'm proud of that. I enjoyed all of the work I did in forestry and genetics. The program I ran in North Carolina was supported by major forest products companies and state agencies all across the Southeast. I did work in 12 different states, even though I was at North Carolina State University. They provided financial support for the research that we were doing. I think that education is the pathway to success for people in our nation, in our community. Not everybody's going to have all the education I got, and they shouldn't have, or don't need to. And I think I am proud of the fact that the West Bath Elementary School is a gem. And I don't come to this running for the school board trying to change anything except try to develop more support and better support for the activity. It's my understanding that the students that leave the West Bath Elementary School and tuition into Bath Middle School and high school and Morse High School are routinely in the top third of their class. And that is a measure of great success. Not everybody needs higher education beyond high school. One of the things that Morse High School offers that our students is available to our students are technical programs. How to be a good carpenter, how to be a mechanic, electrician, a plumber. Those kinds of programs are available to our students through Morse High School and other high schools if they would exercise school choice to other places. That's just as important as all the darn degrees I got. And I'm pleased to know how strong an emphasis that was in the new Morse High School. They even have culinary programs for learning how to cook and prepare meals and things like that. And there are very valuable careers for young people in all of those disciplines, and they all need to be maintained in a strong way. West Bath School District has a big challenge. I'm going to just give you a little bit of what I've learned. By the way, I've been trying to learn as much as I could about what a school board member's responsibilities are. I've been attending, as a public citizen, the school board meetings since about the middle of March, back in the beginning of this year. I was there during the budget period, which was informative. I understood, for instance, that one of the reasons the budget struggled a bit this year is last year's year, they started out, and lo and behold, they had so many new students in kindergarten that they had to have 2 kindergarten classes that hadn't been anticipated just because of the numbers. And then because of those, the budget came, when they came through the budget this year, the carryover they hoped would be there had evaporated. The biggest challenge, in my opinion, to West Bath Schools financing is the fact that the state of Maine treats us as a minimum receiver community. The minimum receiver community gets only a fraction of the state support that most school districts get. There is a constitutional amendment in the state of Maine that says the state government will provide 55% of the cost of K through 12 education, public education in the state of Maine. And then buried in that constitutional amendment is some fine print that talks about wealthy communities that have a strong enough base of tax revenue that they can support more of it themselves will be treated as minimum receivers. West Bath is in that classification. And guess what the minimum receiving of state funds is? It's 5.5%. Not 55%, but 5.5%. That is a huge burden on the taxpayers of West Bath. And why do we get that? The classification, I don't know all the things that go into it, but they say we're a wealthy coastal community. I'd like them to drive down Barry's Mill Road and look at all the wealthy homesteads along Barry's Mill Road that I drive in. I live on Barry's Mill Road, so I drive it frequently. And those taxpayers who are not wealthy are bearing a significant burden as well as the people that are paying a lot of taxes that may be wealthy. I have spoken to Allison Hepler, our local legislative representatives for West Bath, and I asked her a simple question. According to Keith, who, by the way, thank you to Keith Hines, who has been a very capable chairman of the school board for 10 years. And ever since we became an independent school district. And he's done a magnificent job. And I'll let him tell you what his future's about, because he's running for another office now. But he's taught me a little bit about this. But I talked to Allison Hepler, and I said, Allison, there are 40 school districts in the state of Maine that are considered minimum receivers. What if we got the legislative representatives both in the House of Representatives and the Senate for each of those 40 districts who work together to get their representatives to once and for all see if they couldn't get some adjustment to this minimum receiver category? What if they raised it to just 25%, half of what, 27.5%, half of what the other people get? 5.5% is basically the state of Maine saying, we don't care about you. And I think that's wrong. And that would be one of my significant goals, would be to try to see how I could work with the legislative representatives to make that better in the future. And with that, I'll sit down and let a current school board member who's running for re-election speak next.
Good evening, I'm Joanne Powers. I'm running for my third term as school board member. And as a recently retired teacher of 35 years, I feel I can bring that experience to the board. Am I loud enough? Barely. Okay. So I think that helps when we're making decisions about student achievement and being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. I understand people are concerned about the significant increase in their taxes. And the way I look at it is we chose to be an independent school district, and that is costly. The majority of our budget is salaries and benefits. And so if we really want to look at reducing our budget, it would be reducing our staff, which is difficult. I think Emily does her best with the staff that she has. She certainly has some challenges because a lot of the programming that is offered at larger districts, she has to accommodate for individual students at her school, at the West Bath School, which also requires most likely hiring more staff. So I know that's a challenge for her. She's very much aware of it, and I think she does a good job. I have to say, every time she presents a budget, I question any increases, and she justifies her increases. Like, this is what our school needs. And I trust that because she's there every day. And so I think when she does present our budget, it is basically what that school needs to manage every day. I know being an independent school district, we had to hire a superintendent, we had to hire a bookkeeper. We have our own bus service, we have our own janitorial services, so those are expenses that we took on being an independent school district. So I guess if we want to continue, I think we have to realize that it is going to be costly. And maybe if we have, right now our school has about 104 students. It has a low student-teacher ratio, and I would be happy if my child was in a classroom of 13 with a teacher, one teacher. So I guess if it was my child or my grandchildren, I would be grateful to have that kind of attention for my child in that classroom. And I think we have to consider that we have that school, and that is certainly a gift, having the small classes. But if we do increase our population and have to have portables, or we decrease our population significantly, then maybe we have to look at alternatives of maybe joining RSU1 again, or tuitioning our students to RSU1. But for right now, I think people are pretty happy with the school and want to continue. So I hope that I can continue being on the school board and working hard to make those fiscal decisions that impact our taxpayers. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Bob so eloquently introduced me, my name is Keith Hines. I live over on the Sanford Crossing Road with my family. My daughter just walked in, surprised me from college, so it's a little bit of a shock to the system here. I apologize. I moved to West Bath because of the West Bath School. My daughter was in first grade. She's now a freshman at Northeastern University, one of the most selective schools in the nation. Not because she's my daughter, but because she went to West Bath School. We have a phenomenal school. I have a master's degree in public administration. I have 16 years of corporate human resources management, and a total of 20 years total corporate management. I'll be honest, I was looking at the end of this term, I've been on the board for 9.5 years. It isn't easy, and I was thinking, my daughter's in school, got 2 little ones, I'm done. And then some of you in this room approached me and begged me to run for the board of selectmen. So I started tuning in, I started watching meetings, I started to get a little elevated blood pressure. I stopped for a while, said it's not for me, but I came back to this idea that it's broken. And I think I have the skills and the temperament and the knowledge to be able to help fix what is broken. Happy to answer your questions as they come.
If we follow the format that's traditional, the candidates would be willing to answer questions. If you will follow school rules, please raise your hand, and I'll be the teacher and call on you. Just a personal note, I had the great privilege of teaching at a small school on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation. I was the 7 through 12 English teacher for a number of years. I had a total of 60 students at the height of our population. What a small classroom allows the teacher to do is actually know the students. And the thing about that is that you can actually sit next to a kid who's struggling and say, as I did one day, how many thoughts are in that run-on sentence? And we figured out where to put the periods so that the thoughts were coherent. You can do that when you have 6 kids in your classroom or 13. You can't do that when you have 25. The other observation that I would make is when my grandnephew was a student at West Bath School, I had the delight of attending celebrations of learning. What an amazing thing those kids get to do. To say nothing of the program of going to build a boat at the Maine Maritime Museum. So I'm starting a rumor. I would like, as I was one of the first kids to go to West Bath School, I want to start a West Bath School Alumni Association. So talk to me afterwards. We'll get together. It would be a good thing. So that's my speech about the school. Anybody else got any comments?
Joanne, I'm Jane Weir, to just let you know.
Thank you.
Bob has been very pleased to get to know you, and I apologize for my voice. You've been talking about finances and maybe not being financially advantageous for us to be independent school system. But have you thought about the costs that we incurred and couldn't control when we were part of RSU1? Could you address that?
Yes, I guess when I made that statement that we are independent, and it is costly to be independent because we have to duplicate some positions that were already part of our RSU1. I'm not necessarily advocating returning to RSU1 because I went to West Bath School, my daughter went to West Bath School, and like Keith's daughter, my daughter excelled in colleges and in high school because of West Bath School. She was in the top 10 of her high school class. So I do want to support that. The only thing I'm thinking is if it comes to a point where our population increases, so we have to have portable classrooms, then we might have to think of, maybe doing something else because we couldn't accommodate a significant increase in our population or a significant decrease in our population. So I think we're maintaining 100 students, and the classroom sizes are very low. And I think right now that works for us, but if our population does change, I know there's a few homes being built that, we may have to look at another choice. But for right now, I think maintaining our school is definitely what I want, and hope our community does too. Did that answer your question?
Can I just pick back on that? Is that okay? So I think something we need to keep in mind is when we were in RSU1 and we realized what was happening to us, we were able to get out of that mess because we had our school here in West Bath. RSU1 just applied for new construction funding for Fisher Mitchell, Dyke Knoll, Bath Middle School, and Phippsburg Elementary Schools. I am of the belief that if we were to go back there, the first thing they would do is close the West Bath School so that we could never leave again.
Yep.
And then we have to pay our proportional share of the funding for those 4 brand new schools.
Yep.
Thank you.
In further support of, hey, if we're gonna pay it, we're gonna pay it. I went to Bath schools, and because I was on the bus already, wherever Bath wanted to plug a bus rider, they plugged you. So you were in one building one year, and the next year, you were in a different building. When West Bath opened, we were part of the Bath system. And we were a dumping ground for teachers they didn't want. And let's not do that again.
Could you just, we're summer people, interested in our community. Could, you're all running for school committee? And how many?
Those 3 are, I'm running for the board of selectmen.
Right, and how many on the school committee?
How many members on the school board?
There is this 5-member board.
There's
So
2
there
seats
are
open.
2 open.
2 seats,
There are 2 vacancies.
2 seats for 3 people,
There's 2 openings.
okay.
Joanne's running to be re-elected to one of those. She's on the board now. We're competing for one of the seats as well.
Well, she's still running for election, so.
Yes.
And we attended a meeting a couple of years ago. Is there a superintendent of the schools as well as a principal?
It's one of the same.
It's one person.
One person.
But I do remember there was a question, I think it was from Mr. Reno, I believe, why we had a superintendent and we had a principal. Is that issue still,
Those were required to by law.
okay, good.
We're required by law to have a superintendent, and I can tell you that, in my opinion, West Bath is fortunate that Emily Thompson, who is our principal, had the education credentials to do superintendent work as well. So for an additional stipend, which is not trivial, but it's also not super expensive for the town, she does both. And as an example, I'm familiar with a person who works at she's not a teacher, but works at the Georgetown School. They're not in RSU1, they're not in any consolidated school district, but they, again, by state law, have to have a superintendent that oversees their principal's operations. And that's a person that's in Southport or Booth Bay Harbor. And her statement to me was, we never see that person. They're never around. We don't know what the heck they're doing to us or not doing for us. We were fortunate, I think, that Emily could do both. I think Keith, again, he's run for the select board, but he was there on the school board when that decision was made, and I think it's been a good one for our town.
I don't want to be accused of fact checking, but I was not in fact there. That hire decision was actually made by the withdrawal committee,
Okay.
Okay.
who led the effort to withdraw. We agreed with retaining her, but that actual decision was made by that committee.
Side question, different. The effect of the COVID, over the last 2 years, how has that affected the schools?
Keys is modest, but West Bath School stayed open all year long during COVID. It's partly fortunate that they had the space to do distance between desks for students, and they could spend some money on enhancing the ventilation. But Joanne's part of that school board as well. They did a good job of negotiating us through West Bath, the COVID, because a lot of places, schools shut down. They did not.
Wasn't there a story about buying ski pants?
I'm not sure I would call it a story because it's a factual
Okay, well,
statement, yes.
would you explain
So-
that?
There were 20% of the schools in the nation were able to remain open during COVID, and we were one of them. You know, we had some COVID funds, so we made the decision to buy every student who attended West Bath School a pair of snow pants, a winter hat, and a pair of winter gloves. And that allowed us to have our students outside as much as we could. Spacing requirements are different. They're active, they're not just sitting at a desk looking at a screen. You know, there are some folks who don't feel like that was a worthwhile expenditure. I will say, still to this day, we have every pair of those ski pants, the winter hats, and the gloves, and every year we bring those to the students. It's one less burden on parents when the school year starts.
I must say, they're very, very creative. Give you credit for that.
Yes.
Paul Coombs, Hill Road. This is for Keith. So we've had a evaluation of taxes and tax property in town, and it looks like we're going to have a new administrator. Been a lot of changes, and we have a new comprehensive plan. Not that that changes anything that was already in flow in town, but still, there's a vision there. I'm just wondering, you know, all of your watching of the select board meetings on the television, I just wonder what jumps out at you as priorities for the ensuing period.
Yeah, first of all, I think we need to fix our ability to communicate with each other. I think that's a fundamental flaw, something that I will be passionately engaged in trying to resolve. Secondly, I think we need to spend a little time educating our community. I agree with you, a lot of stuff has changed in a short period of time, and I don't know how much of that we've really shared and absorbed and comprehended. We obviously are going to have some new staff that need to make sure they get proper training. I've been fielding some questions of late regarding the school budget and why the increase and whatnot. And, we had 6 public meetings on the school budget. Many of them are recorded, all the minutes are available, and still there are questions. So I think over-communication is essential and something we need to get a lot better.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question? Just one, teacher turnover, is that an issue here in town? Or do teachers stay?
I can't cite the exact turnover rate. As best I can recall, and tell me if I'm wrong, in 9.5 years, maybe 3 teachers.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue, and I think Emily's done a pretty good job at maintaining your staff. One issue is providing art, music, and PE. Typically, a larger school district would have a roving teacher because they only need to provide 1 class a week for each grade level. Well, that's hard to maintain a teacher that would only come to your school for a day and a half. So she's able to patch together a couple jobs so that they are, you know, staying with West Bath School and not always looking for a full-time job. You know, sometimes a college student would take the position and then find a full-time job. So I think Emily's done a pretty good job. Would you say that also, Keith, as providing positions that would, you know, have longevity for the staff? I know there's one teacher there that my daughter had, so there is some longevity in our staff.
And our school is not an easy school to work in. The expectations of our students are very high, but the expectations of our staff are very high as well. You know, just the nature of the EL programming, expeditionary learning programming that we offer, it requires a lot of extra effort on the teacher staff. They are required to maintain their own portfolios as well as student portfolios. There's a accreditation process that they have to go through every 4 years. It's a rigorous school to work at, not just be a student.
I would just like to point out as well that as advantageous as it is to have staff that stay a long time, they cost us money because of the way that teaching salaries are staffed every year. So part of the reason that we're very successful is that we pay our teachers and they put in the work. One of the things that I was really impressed with during the early time in COVID was how quickly the teachers at West Bath School were able to switch their entire teaching process, which is very group-oriented, into being able to provide online classes. I know that I would not have been able to respond in that way that quickly, because the whole process of EL depends on group work. And now you have people sitting in their own homes without their group, and how to restructure that. I still am in awe at the way that that happened, and that we didn't lose kids.
So can I ask both of you a question, since you've been on the school board for a while? How do you explain the state rankings then? Is it something that is being misread? Our ranking nationally, and then West Bath, like I said, they always are above the state ranking. But it's my understanding that we have dropped significantly nationally, so as we're spending the money, and we know it's a great school, but how do I don't understand how those two link together. Like, the money's being spent, clearly, we've got teachers staying on, but again, and I'm just asking a question as a citizen of West Bath, like, what's going on there?
Do you know what tool they use to measure the achievement, to make the comparison?
No, I actually don't know much at all. That's why I'm asking. So I'm giving you the opportunity to sort of, because I even have like from 1992 to 2022, and this is from the National Center for Educational Statistics. We've gone from the top, say, 10% in 92 down to about 40%.
That's the state as a whole.
The state as a whole, right. So, I mean, I shouldn't say percent, I should state, 1 through 50. So from the top 10 states down to the lower, 30s and 40s. So what is that? Because like I said, I actually don't know, and I'm curious as to what that is. How do they get ranked?
Well, I'm not, that's what I'm asking. I don't know what tool your study is using to.
It's a national, it's not,
Right.
it's the National Center for Statistics.
But how do they assess the students? Like,
What I have is like math and reading
do they
assessments.
assess them? So the one I'm familiar with is they assess like 3rd grade, 6th grade. They don't assess every grade level, and they only select a certain number of students to take these assessments.
Mhm.
So that could be part of it. Who they select is, I think it's a random selection,
Mhm.
from what I understand. I'm not familiar with that, but that's kind of my understanding.
So how does West Bath then, what kind of ranking like, where do you see yourselves, or where does the school see itself for its students as far as performing?
I don't know the exact score, but what I do know is we consistently outperform our neighboring school districts, and we consistently outperform the state average on our, what's called the NOEA.
Right.
The assessment tool that we use.
Yep,
I will say, was it last year or the year before, that the state of Maine completely changed how they do, what tool they use to do those assessments. And so all of the historical data is now jumbled, and the state is in a little bit of confusion as to how to compare apples to apples given these two different assessment tools. We got lucky in West Bath because we were already using the NOEA. We actually use the NOEA exam every year, twice a year. So we have some valuable historical data that allows us to safely claim that we are outperforming all of the neighboring districts and the city.
mhm. But if the state, where is the state nationally? So I think that's great if we're, you know what I'm
I think
saying?
you gotta be really careful comparing various state rankings, because no two states, to my knowledge, use the same tools and platforms to measure those results. So I'm not familiar with this organization that you're referring to. I don't know how that draft was made. I would be hard pressed to believe that Maine is as low as that chart.
How many grade, third grade, second grade?
I think just to piggyback off that, not to add on to my dad, it's weird, but I will say too that like running for a school board position means like your focus will be on this school. So like Dad said, that state rankings may be different, but regardless of what you do on the school board, I mean, that's not going to change the overall state ranking. So if that's something you're concerned about, then
I'm actually not concerned about the state ranking. I just know that the only other register I have is that West Bath outperforms the state ranking, and so what is that? That's my question, right?
Well, I think
So
that's,
nationally speaking, you'd want to say, okay, how's ours? If that's how they say it, then you want to know where that is, where the state is.
yeah. Well, I would say the school outperforming the state ranking shows like the exceptional education and teachers that it has, and that's a really good thing. So I would say that's something we should.
Yeah,
we
if you're
should
doing,
do.
if that absolutely, it is. But again, if you're saying that you still need to know where that line is. If you're looking for your children to go out, you know, beyond West Bath and beyond, you know, you still want to say, oh, my child is doing, you know, really well nationally as well, because that's where you're going to be.
Sure.
Right?
It's
What
a
do you
fair point. I don't, go ahead.
Like I said, I don't know either. That's why I asked the question, because if we're
I'm
continuing to ask and move forward with the.
We just have a couple more minutes.
Yep.
Juanita Wilson, and I want to thank Joanne and Keith for the excellent service for the West Bath School Board. And I want to thank both you folks for running, but I really want to acknowledge Bob, the amount of time and connection, the research, the facts and the knowledge about our community and about our school that you were able to present this evening impresses me significantly, and thank you for that. In terms of a barometer, as someone who volunteered weekly at the West Bath School while running a full-time business with other employees, and volunteering on other West Bath committees, I think I have a very objective view. And when I am an appraiser, I'm an assessor, so I gather data and I analyze data. I respect that you have something there on the table as a singular report. But I think the most important data is the number of parents within this room, the number of graduates within this room. We know in the real world they have excelled. They have excelled socially. They have excelled academically. They have excelled in their current professional positions a decade or so after their graduation. Our daughter was accepted, the only college she applied to was Colby. She was accepted, she has an economics degree, she has a dual degree. That is to the credit of the West Bath School. Many other people in this room have a very similar experience. And the data is an individual who makes her living running data is what you have produced. And thank you, Bob, for your research.
Any other comments? Questions? I want to thank the candidates for your interest and your concern. And we look forward to a very exciting election day. Thank you.